What is up, NPA fans? I am your host for this weekly recap, the Juancito Marvel, and joining me today is the one, the only, the AmazingChi.
Hey up YouTube, what's going on?
Hey, yo! So, we are here to go over what is the thing called the weekly recaps. Yes, indeed it is. And to start it off, we're actually going to go over to the Minnesota Vickavolts versus the Free State Torcats, both respectively coached by A-Drive and Duncan Knee-Deep.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Tell us some things about that, my friend.
Okay, well, that was a sort of a well-fought match, but then you shouldn't really expect any different from two GBA members as well.
That's right.
So a little bit of maybe a little bit of a sort of a preview for later events coming on in that league. But this is the NPA, and here in the NPA, it was a well-fought. Ended up being a lot tighter than it probably should have been. But I believe ended up 1-0. Or two. I can't remember if it was 1-0 or 2-0 in the end, but I think it was 1-0.
I'm pretty sure it was 2-0.
2-0.
Yeah,
I think it was
because
2-0
he still had Dan still had Crocodile in the back, and he cleaned up with Infernape in the end.
Yes.
Some notable things that I would like to appreciate. Z Sandstorm.
Yes.
I definitely appreciated that for the fact that it did give him Duncan the speed that he needed in order to outpace most of most of Dan's team. Yeah.
Well, I think at that point it would have outsped everything because Scarf would not have outsped the +1 Garchomp if Garchomp was fully invested as well.
Yeah, because looking at it, if Infernape wouldn't have outsped it, a little Ninetales wouldn't have outsped it because they were in Scarf.
Ninetales was dead as well at that point. So.
Yeah, that's true.
In fairness, we only saw Zed's Sandstorm because of what definitely could be seen as a mistake from Dan, and if he had lost, there would have been maybe calls for like choking there, but because there wasn't. And I know someone did point it out in the comment section as well, and I thought, I'm glad I'm not the only one who was, potentially shouting at the screen there. But switching out Infernape made very little sense, in my opinion.
It gave the opportunity of Duncan to get some momentum back, possibly, right?
I know Dan said he waited and did Z Sandstorm at the right moment, but to be honest, that was the only moment. I didn't watch Duncan's side of things. Did Duncan just press it because it was, a Hail Mary?
Duncan sort of pressed it for the fact that, yes, most of the things that would have outsped it were dead, and he was trying to bank on the miss and get the rolls that he needed.
So he had to bank on a miss or a switch out or something happening
because he was Sandvale Garchomp.
Yeah, because there was no reason for Infernape to switch out. If Infernape had a move that could kill Garchomp, which it did, I think it had Hidden Power Ice. Then there was no reason not to click Hidden Power Ice because it outsped Garchomp. And if Garchomp was scarfed, then he would have been locked into a move and therefore an easy revengeable. So there was no reason really to switch out Infernape. Keeping Infernape would have guaranteed the match no matter what happened. He kind of switched out, and it kind of got a little bit scary whether or not Shaman would hit. If Shaman did not take that hit, Dan would have lost.
Yes, actually 100%, and it was indeed a roll in Duncan's favor to actually get pick up. Yeah, it was a roll in Duncan's favor to pick up that KO, but it just missed out. How much HP did it land on, by the way?
I think it was. I put 8 question mark on my notes, but I'm not 100%. And also, of course, there was a 15% chance to miss the Seed Flare as well.
Okay.
Even more because he would have the Sand Veil. So it was the 15% chance to miss the Seed Flare plus the Sand Veil.
Yep.
Effect. So that was an incredibly risky play, and if it wasn't for that, he would have definitely lost.
Yeah.
So
interesting match. Very definitely an interesting match.
Yeah, obviously, it sounds like we were sort of ragging on Dan there for that one misplay there, but there was a lot going for Dan in that match as well. The Necrozma set was, in my opinion, perfect. Not putting a stab move on Necrozma was a kind of ballsy thing to do, but it worked out very well in his favor.
Yeah. You could see that Necrozma really didn't need it for this matchup. Yes, no. Terrakion would have been good for the Terrakion, but he needed Earthquake for Alolan. It 2-hit him easily. It did 60%.
Yeah, so the Psychic was not necessary. The substitute on the Miniol was a great idea, even though it was never actually needed in the end. But it was great to have that there in case you needed it for the Ditto, because obviously if you sub on the Ditto, it can't transform into you.
Yep, basically.
And having Moxie non-intimidate on Krook was also crucial in killing that Ditto, because if the Ditto got the intimidate back on the Krook, then it wouldn't have killed.
exactly.
So
definitely agree on that.
There was, like I say, there was a lot going for down in that match as well. There was a lot of good prep and a lot of good play in that. I don't want to take anything away from the rest of the match. Just those last 5 minutes were scary as hell if you're watching from downside of things.
That is definitely true. Yeah. We're actually going to move on now to the New York Lynx versus the Leicester City Pokemon Club.
Oh, yes.
Coached by Papa C and who?
And T-Train and the Leicester City.
Tree Train, yes. T-Train,
yes.
So that was a match.
That was a match. My notes start with, holy the hacks.
Yeah, there was. What did we make note? There was 4 out of 6 times.
I've written it all down. There was later on in the match, obviously there was the paralysis, the intentional paralysis on the Magina, so that wasn't hacks. But then for the 6 following turns, Magina was fully paralysed. That's 66% on what is actually just a 25% chance. So that was over double.
That's ridiculous.
The amount of turns that he should have been paralysed on average, and literally any one of those turns that he was paralysed, if he wasn't paralysed, it would have been a 3-0 to Leicester City. But because 4 of those turns were paralyses, it was only a 1-0. He still won, still eked it out in the end, thank God, because, I don't want to take anything away, from, Papa C didn't play badly, but to be honest, T-Train had that match, and it would have been unfair, in my opinion, if it had gone the other way because of those paralyses.
Yeah, definitely the prep on Leicester City's side was a lot, not stronger, but well adept for the fact, because with Zapdos being semi-offensive and semi-bulky, it could not handle as well the rest of his team as Papa C originally thought.
No.
It looked like he was really banking on Zapdos being bulky enough to handle it, but he was using it more as an offensive. Yes. So it was, and also Mega Alakazam was another thing that, yes, it did the owl, but not enough owl, surprisingly.
Yeah, it can be sort of, especially when your opponent's got a priority move as well. You got to make sure it gets the KOs.
That is true. That's very true.
Speaking of the Zapdos briefly, of course, you did get the static power followed by the immediate full paralyzation as well for another round of hacks. There was the 10% Flare Blitz burn. T-Train theorized it was 30% in his video. It's actually only 10%, so you're even more hard done by there than you thought you were.
This was just a bad battle for...
And in that same turn, when he got the burn, I didn't actually count this myself, but apparently the EQ against the Blaziken was a low roll and didn't kill as a result. I didn't count that one, so I don't know if it was a low roll in the end, because obviously it was burned at that point.
We need to double check in the calcs,
to see... I'm not sure, but if that was a low roll, that was even more unfortunate, because that allowed the Blaziken to still live and get another round of damage off.
But hey, T-Train pulled through.
Still pulled through in the end, but... Good God, I've never seen it.
For it. Yeah.
I don't think I've generally ever seen anyone have as much hacks go against them and not really anything go the other way as well. Sometimes you get those hacksy battles where it's flying all over the place, but never really...
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a few battles where I've had like 2 or 3 instances of hacks and I lose because of it, but I've never had that level.
I mean, didn't we, like the first season we were in PPO, you freezed me and then I froze you in the same battle or something like that?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, I think the only other time was when I got 3 powers in a row on Monoturi's Manaphy. That's the most hacks I've ever seen go in one direction ever, and the crit on the Mega Aerodactyl in the same match. That's the most one-sided I've ever seen hacks be, and I've been hacked myself quite a lot.
Wow. Okay.
So this takes the biscuit though. 4 out of 6 paralysis, a Flare Blitz burn, a static power, full power immediately, and a low roll EQ to top
and a potential low roll earthquake as well.
That is incredible, but still pull through and a gritty 1-0 win in the end.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, that's befitting of Leicester City, which I'm hoping is what the pun is from. It's befitting of the Leicester City namesake. Well known for grinding out those 1-0 wins.
Pretty sure. I'm gonna bet on that. Moving on now, we're actually going to talk about Kelly and the Maryland Torterrapins versus Kessel Key and the Adeline Umbreons.
Adeline? Is it?
Adelaide?
Adelaide, is it?
Oh. Okay.
I'm hoping it's Adelaide, because that's what I wrote down.
Let me just double check. Really. I did miss a D. Yep, Adelaide. Yes.
I was going to say.
My keyboard is failing me. Forgive me.
Oh yeah, I remember your weird keyboard where buttons don't do things.
Shh. Okay. So yeah, this was actually a very, very hard 1-2-0 victory for the Maryland Torterrapins.
Yeah, really good match. And what I liked, and just before we talk about it, what I liked in sort of key side of things was she sort of started off by saying, "I learnt a lot from this match from Kelly," and I thought that was really sort of a nice gesture to make as well, which is kind of really cool. But yeah, I just wrote down, I put well played and no real misplays, so to speak.
No, there weren't really any misplays, but very well preps on both sides.
Yes, excellent prep. Excellent prep. I did have one criticism, and that's on the Umbreon side. Is I'm not sure what the reasoning for not bringing Azumarill was, because Azumarill is a fantastic counter to Zardex.
Yeah, actually, I definitely do agree on that, because I know for a fact, as I actually helped Kelly team build against him, against the Adelaide Umbreons, and every time he actually made a note in his side of the video, every time he mock battled against his team, every iteration of the team, he won 4-0 or less. 4-0 or more, I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
So the fact that he had this type of discrepancy in this specific battle against all the other mock battles that he had shows it's the player, not the team.
Yes,
like he just kept on saying all the time before. One thing that I know threw him off on when I was watching Kelly's side was the Absorb Bulb Hoopa.
Oh, that was fantastic. I love that.
Beautiful, honestly. That was because he immediately got scared out for the fact that +1 Hoopa does more damage than intended.
Yes,
when you run the calcs.
Yeah, +1, well, really +1 anything, but that was an excellent sort of surprise. I don't want to say meme as such, but it was a nice surprise factor on the team.
Yeah,
so from out of nowhere, suddenly there's a +1 Hooper, and I'm like, oh, how do I deal with this?
Yeah, I can see how she would do it, because she would bait the Salazzle with Jellicent, just up Jellicent with Salazzle, and immediately switch out into Hoopa, and then because the Jellicent's not going to use a Shadow Ball to kill the Salazzle, and then just get the boost. Very, very nice. Very
try and
well
bop it with a Shadow Ball, of course. So in return, and that, yeah, excellent. I also particularly love the Magnet Pull Alolan Golem as well. Nice, excellent way of dealing with the Skarmory that Kelly has, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a nice way of dealing with the Skarmory as well, just Magnet Pulling that, bopping it with the electric moves. I mean, no, it's a physical thing, Alolan Golem, but it still bopped it with the electric moves. And
to be fair,
suddenly there's no defog anymore.
Yep, certainly there's no defog and no spikes, which if he was able to get off of spikes, because Skarmory was paralyzed throughout after he got.
I did forget about the paralysis there.
He was Skarmory was paralyzed, and he got full para, I believe, twice, enabling Kelly to get up the spikes that he crucially needed in order to pick up some KOs.
I think it was just the once. I think he just got the paralysis, and then it was fully parried, and then it killed because it got sped the next turn.
Okay. But another thing I'd like to note is the Hitmonchan. What was that said? I like you watching her side. What was that said?
I didn't see a team builder as such, so I didn't really see. I remember having Earthquake, and I can't remember having much else, to be honest.
Okay.
And I was slightly questioning why there was a Hitmonchan there, because in the battle there wasn't really much use for a Hitmonchan. But I saw the rest of Kelly's team on the document, and I could see why the Hitmonchan was actually brought. Just not a lot of the things that it was needed for came.
Because I'm going to definitely say that was the very bulky Hitmonchan. It took a lot more than I expected.
I think it had investment, but I can't quite be certain on that, to be honest. I didn't make any notes on Hitmonchan in the game. I remember having Earthquake, but that's about it.
But shoutouts to Nidoqueen doing the work, pulling out the KOs that it needed to do, and also Jellicent being a freaking monster in terms of absorbing hits. Yeah,
Jellicent is always I very much believe that Jellicent is underrated in League format, and I hope he does well in general, because I love that mod.
Yeah, I do too, man. I do too. Going on, we have the Philadelphia Brave Berries versus the Hampshire Hunters.
And scrolling down. There we are.
Yeah, let me double check where.
Oh, this is one of the matches.
Okay. So, we have some things to say.
I just want to start off, and before we get off with sort of individual turn criticisms or anything like that, I would say this is probably one of the safest matches I've ever seen ever. I don't think either side ever predicted a switch. They always went for the safe play. Like every single turn, a safe play was made, and I put down it was a little bit like watching two computers fight. Because they just went for the most effective move against the Pokemon that was already out in front of them every time.
I can actually agree with that because since I was watching the Hampshire side, it was all replay and not actual live commentary. So
I think it might have been. I can't remember if it was one of the few postcoms on I watched as well, but on my side of things. But yeah, I'm not sure what the reasoning for not bringing Volcanion was.
Oh.
Because on the Haunter side of things, because Volcanion is one of the premier dealers of scissor.
Yeah, actually.
And frankly, having the Volcanion probably would have prevented him being swept. Just straight up.
True.
Straight up.
Indeed.
Like,
we're got 5 kills in this battle. Wow.
Like I made a note on this. Yeah, 5 kills in the sweep there. I made a note of this. There's only 2 switch-ins on the Bravery sides to fire, and that's Zygarde and Primarina. And Primarina doesn't do the greatest amount of damage to Volcanion in the first place because Sludge Wave exists on Volcanion. So it's only really Zygarde you have to be worried about with Volcanion, and you know that's can be dealt with Hidden Power Ice if you want to bring a Scarf Volcanion, or an AV won't be helping you there, or we could go with a Shuka Berry Volcanion to surprise it or whatever.
Yeah, and even so, if they want, Zygarde isn't really a reliable switching into a Steam Eruption either, because it isn't just neutral damage, and you could potentially get a burn.
Doesn't want to take it, and doesn't want to take the burn either. So yeah, Volcanion basically had no switch-ins, and I don't know why it wasn't brought. But you know, that being said, even with the teams that were brought, there's a few questionable things that happened.
Do we want to talk about the Drio v Emolga?
Yeah, we'll start at the start.
Yep. Okay. So
that made it sound really bad, actually. We'll start with the start of the match, and then we'll work our way through. No, there's only a few. Don't worry, there's only a couple of things.
Yeah, don't worry. But my note is that because I was watching the Hunter side.
Yes.
Emolga was in with the trio. The situation is Emolga's in with the trio. Emolga switches out. You think it isn't really a big problem unless you hear the commentary that comes along with it.
I'm sorry, but
Hampshire's on their commentary, they said, "Oh, I'm going to switch out Emolga into Thing. Oh, I was able to switch out Emolga. The Drio doesn't have Arena Trap." Which is a bad assumption to make for the fact that Levitators and Flying types do not get affected by Arena Trap.
If you're not grounded, Arena Trap doesn't do anything. It's not Shadow Tag.
It is not Shadow Tag, and even then, Shadow Tag only works on Ghost types. So people who know, everyone who's watching this, that is how trapping abilities work.
Yeah, Arena Trap does not work on anything that is not touching the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it works with anything that's used Magna-Rise. That might be something worth checking into, but it doesn't work.
It would be a mechanic to work out.
Yeah, so anything that's not grounded is fine. Because I was watching on my side of things, I was like the Dugtree is in, and you'll say, well, my opponent will be able to switch out, and he'll know that. But and then at the same time, he would the Braveries were predicting the switch from Emolga out, and then decided to go for Sucker Punch. So if you know that he can switch out, and probably will switch out, fearing a Stone Edge, why would you go for the Sucker Punch? It's not even going to do the greatest amount of damage to the Emolga that exists in front of you anyway. But
yeah,
wow. So that was a little bit questionable on both sides during that same turn. But I mean, the big one is not necessarily having Scarf Manaphy in the first place. I have seen that. I mean, I have seen Scarf Manaphy do things before. It's not common to Scarf and Manaphy, which, you know, nice little surprise factor. But the Scarf Manaphy was brought in against that same Dugtrio later in the match.
Yes.
You're a Manaphy. Why are you not scolding?
On his side, actually, I'm going to explain this. The Hunters did want to was predicting the Empoleon switching. So instead of doing a resisted hit, they rather secure some sort of damage onto a Mon that wanted to come in.
If you're gonna predict predict that, then the Dugtrio was sacked, so it didn't really matter. It was dying either way. Yeah. But if you're gonna predict the Empoleon, Scald is still just as important. It's resisted 2 times, fine. It's resisted by half, that's fine, but it still stabs Scald and has a chance to burn. Empoleon has no way of getting that burn off other than rest. And
that is true.
It doesn't have its own recovery, so any burn damage it gets, it stays. Basically, it can't recover that burn damage off. I know that because I've used Empoleon, and that is one of the biggest drawbacks is when it got burned. I know burn got nerfed, but one of the biggest problems with Inferno is when it gets burned from other Scalds. because it likes to switch into Scald, but it does get burnt by said Scald and then can't recover that off. So yeah, I don't know why you want to Scald, because the second you click Scald is you allow the Mega Scissor to come in.
Yeah, that's true. That's
even if you're predicting the opponent and you go into the energy ball and predicting the neutral energy ball, it still allows Mega Scissor to come in the turn after anyway.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I'm very hazy about this battle, but just in retrospect of things, Mega Scissor, this gives, if it's a set of Mega Scissor, it gives Mega Scissor free reign to just start setting up on you.
And that's exactly what happened, and they got 5 kills. Now.
Okay.
So yeah, it set up the source downs and then proceeded to sweep through the team with Bullet Punch. Now, I'm not sure why the Scarf Malafy was not the first thing brought back in against it.
That is true, because then you can just click Scald in that retrospect as well.
Yeah, because you can then click Scald. He's forced into using Bullet Punch because you will outspeed the U-turn, and the Bullet Punch doesn't do anything. The U-turn, you still have a +2 U-turn, and it may, and I don't think it actually killed. I can't remember if it actually killed or not straight off, but it still resisted the Bullet Punch, and it kind of forces him to switch out. In fact, now that's what happened. He brought the Scarf Malafy back in as the last thing, and then he switches into. You goes for the +2 U-turn, that kills the Manaphy, but he does take the Scald first, or whatever he went for.
Yeah.
Doesn't kill the Scissor, of course. But
but if
then the Azav comes in.
And
then the Azav comes in and takes out the Crobat to finish off the match. If the Manaphy was the first thing brought in, there still would have been 2 more things alive behind it.
Yeah.
If the Manaphy was the first thing that came back in. As it was, it allowed 2 things that were faster to take bullet punches and die, basically, or something that was weak to it and die. I can't remember what the other 2 mons were now, but 2 or 3 things died before the Manaphy came back in.
Yeah, there was a Piloswine, Miltank, Mienshao.
Oh yeah, the Piloswine. Oh, the Mienshao, that was the big one, the Mienshao, because obviously it gets it outspeeds Scissor naturally, but then takes the 2+2 bullet punch and just straight up dies. Doesn't help. But yeah, always go into your resist first. Basically, go into your resist first to the priority moves.
And also, if you know you can force a switch, make the force a switch. Even though if it dies, and even though it can still do damage later, you can win later.
Yeah, because
you can win for later.
You may be sacking off what could be a potential win con in a Scarf Manaphy, but you've dealt with the threat temporarily. There's no +2 Scissor in front of you anymore.
Yeah, which is always scary.
Yeah, precisely. But anyway, it's we live and learn, and we say this as analysts and as a recappers. I don't want people to think that we are sort of hating on them or anything like that. No, we've all made these mistakes ourselves, haven't we, Juan?
Let's not talk about it. I'm still having flashbacks.
The specters of the past. That's an in-joke between me and Juan in the past battle that we had. Apologies to anyone watching who is not a watcher of the PPL as well.
Yes, but going on forward from here, before we get into gruesome details, we have the Iowa Harulichas versus the Colorado Rapidash.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have a lot on this match because it was quite a quick match, and I thank you for post-comming this.
Bless you. Bless the people who post-com. It makes our lives just a little bit easier.
We understand why people do live comms, and I used to do live comms myself for the same reason. But as now an analyst, I really appreciate people who used to do post comms. Because even on +2, a 40-minute video is still 20 minutes of my time.
Yes, it is. But no need for complaining right now.
Yeah.
Colorado Rapidash were able to pick up a 4-0 victory versus the Iowa Haluchas.
I only have a few select things because it actually wasn't the longest battle turn-wise either. It was over quite quickly. Basically, after the first couple of turns, I think Brady might have gone a little bit on tilt. As soon as the Source Dance went up on Virizion, Brady kind of panicked.
Yeah, but I think he was just.
That's what it looked like. I don't want to, That's what it looked like anyway from the.
I don't remember right now off the top of my head, but was the Virizion Life Orbed?
It was just Source Dance, I think. I don't think it was Life. I don't think it was Life Orb as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure what item it had, but it wasn't. I don't think it was a Life Orb, and it wasn't a recovery item either. So it might have been like Expert Belt or something. I'm not certain.
If I recall correctly, that.
Oh no, I know what it was. It was a Z-Mon. It was a Z thing because it had Continental Crush.
It was a Z move. Okay.
It used Continental Crush on the Pelipper to kill the Pelipper.
Oh man.
Yes, yeah. It still stands up on Keldeo, I believe. Or I can't remember what it still stands up on. But
it was able to pick up kills on Keldeo, Pelipper, and Ludicolo, I believe.
If it killed the Keldeo, then that's what it sort of stands up on. Or it sort of stands up on a switch and Keldeo came in and then it died. But Pelipper happened. Pelipper set up the rain turn 1, it switched out. Whilst this Swords Dance thing was happening, he brought Pelipper back in whilst the rain was still going.
That actually brought the fact that now you're limited on rain turns.
You're limited on rain turns. There was only one turn after the Pelipper went down, and then Ludicolo came in and proceeded to do damage to the Virizion, didn't kill it, and then die straight away to the Virizion again as well. Now, Pelipper. Now you might think obviously you're neutral on the grass hit and you're resisting the fighting hit, and of course you probably have Hurricane yourself. But
it's still a Pelipper.
It's still a Pelipper, and you're still outsped by the Virizion. So be prepared to take damage on that Pelipper. I understand why it was brought in, and not predicting the Continental Crush is, fair enough. But you had a Ludicolo already, that's being affected by the rain. That gets some damage off no matter what, or you're going to be outspeeding the Virizion. That's fine. You also had Scarf Rybombi.
Yes.
Which I think it was Scarf Rybombi. I'm not certain.
He was definitely definitely when I was looking over the video.
I believe Rybombi outspeeds Virizion anyway.
No, Rybombi and knowing because I use Rybombi, it has base 124 speed.
Yeah, so it outspeeds Virizion anyway. Rybombi 2 times resist the grass, and it 4 times resist the fighting, I believe.
Yes, because Bug resist fighting.
Yeah, so admittedly, yes, that would also have been done by the Continental Crush in the end, but it was a more natural thing to go into first against.
Yeah, I feel like actually, if
he
would have brought in Rybombi as the sack for Virizion, forcing it to go for Continental Crush,
Pelipper.
Radioactive. No, I'm saying Rybombi. If he went for Rybombi first instead of Pelipper.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah, saying Pelipper would still be on the field if he had to waste the Z move on Rybombi.
He would still have the rain turns. He would still kind of use the Ludicolo later on in the game, which would have done a major amount of damage because I'm seeing Tyranitar and Extra weak to its Water Stab, and then and its Grass, and then Ludicolo is naturally the one Ice Beam. I should know. I am a Ludicolo. Haxorus does not stand a chance. Rotom Heat, okay, sure thing. Try to freaking survive anything with Rotom Heat against Ludicolo. And then Mew. Mew. I'm not sure what type of set Mew was ran this week.
No, I have no idea. I don't think it's on the field.
Okay.
I think we literally only ever saw Virizion. Oh no, I can't remember what. I can't remember what led against the. I can't remember what led opposite the Pelipper turn 1. I can't remember what happened there actually. But I remember once all the Virizion had been dealt with and eventually died. I think something killed it. I think the Rybombi killed it in the end, or something. I can't remember what ended up. Yeah, because it didn't kill the Rybombi, so I think Rybombi killed the Virizion in the end. There was a moment where it was Thundurus versus Tyranitar.
Yeah.
Tyranitar outspeeds Thundurus in this turn. And then Brady looks at the damage and goes, "Oh, this is definitely banded." It outsped you! It's scarfed!
It had... again, it potentially was also that he was being on tilt at this point, so he didn't realize what he was saying. He probably maybe meant that he said he was supposed to be
he deliberately referenced the amount of damage he did, and then proceeded to say it's banded.
It happens. We get mixed up in like the middle of battles and stuff like that.
Yeah, it does happen. I've done that before. I've done that before. I can't remember what it was, but there was something out. Something I had, and I kept thinking it was scarfed, even though we clearly shown that it wasn't scarfed at some point. And I said it like 3 or 4 times every time it came back in. I was like, I'm worried this might be scarfed. I'm worried this might be scarfed.
Yep, it definitely does happen. But
you can miss these things.
Don't worry. You bounce back from these things. Everything.
You've got a good team there. I'm not. I mean, I think the rain team was the right call because it kind of counters the sand team and prevents the extra jaw doing its thing. So I'm definitely not gonna, take anything away from the team you brought. I think the biggest problem was the order of Pokemon brought out against the Swords Dance Virizion. Yeah. There was nothing you could. I'm not sure there was a lot that could be done about the Swords Dance Virizion, but just the order what things happened essentially there. Rybombi should definitely come in before the Pelipper. Pelipper was definitely more of a win con than Rybombi was in that situation. Because it would allow you to get the rain back up. Like every time Tyranitar came in, you could just bring the rain in and override it, and then you would still potentially have Ludicolo to take advantage of that later on as well. If Ludicolo bopped the Virizion rather than the Rybombi, could have kept that around.
Shout out to Ludicolo.
Yes.
Okay, going on. We are going to look at the Chicago Cubs, coached by Galactic Elliott, versus the Rochester Rhydons.
Yeah, I've just put like a valiant effort here for the Rhydons here.
It was a very back and forth battle.
To be honest, when the first the roster of Elliott's team starts with Mega Metagross, Clefable, Salamence, you're in for a tough battle no matter what happens.
Yeah. Which again, I still don't know how Mega Metagross is allowed in any league format ever.
Yeah, I mean, we can say the same argument of Tapu Lele at this point, but
yeah, basically
sacking the only thing with coverage for Seismitoad is not a good idea. I know it's the only thing in coverage for Seismitoad because literally that's the first comment you made in the video. So this is the only thing I have with a grass move for Seismitoad. On the Galvantula, which presumably was Energy Ball or Giga Drain. I guess both of them.
It was Giga Drain, I think.
I guess both of them, I think. So,
yeah.
It's just... Okay, now your only thing to deal with Seismitoad is gone. Seismitoad now has free reign against you, should it ever want to come in.
Yes.
That's it's always not a good thing to... When you've got a 4 times weak mon on the other side, if you've only got one piece of coverage for it, just slap on a random hit about grass somewhere.
Yep, it always
if
works.
You can.
Also,
it can be Rindoberry, of course. It can be Rindoberry, but it's still there. One thing I did note is I don't think it was. I mean, the Mega Metagross, the Clefable, the Salamence, the Salamence particularly was a massive problem in general for his team. But I think one of the underrated problems for the Rhydons here in terms of Elliott's team was the Electros.
Yes,
because
Electros was
the Rhydons only had one immunity to that Volt Switch, and that's Rhyperior. And Electros, of course, gets Giga Drain. So therefore, there was literally nothing on his team for Electros.
Mm-hmm. Even though it was sacked early on, definitely if Elliott would have preserved that a little bit more.
Yeah, you kind of say you're sacked fairly early on in the match, but it did come in 2 or 3 times and get a free Volt Switch off because there was nothing to stop it. It could take
that is true.
It just took the hits and kept Volt Switching and kept getting the initiative. And when your initiative includes Clefable, Metagross, and Salamence, you've got a problem. And of course, I was saying that mentioning those 3, Exploud was actually probably just as big a problem this match as well. It was, as he mentioned, it's like when sacking the Galvantula essentially turn 2 or whatever it was.
To allow the Exploud to come in,
sacking it to the Exploud. It's like I'm saying, I have no switch into this Exploud. It's like, okay, but don't sack the one mon which is the only mon to deal with one of your opponent's mons.
Actually, in this battle, there was a lot of that. That there was the what's a switching syndrome.
Yeah, there's a lot of what's a switching. Like I said, there wasn't a lot to deal with Ments. I don't really understand the obsession with getting up the webs in this match. Pum, the Rhydons did say I feel a lot better with having these webs up. I'm not sure why, because the only things affected by webs were Clefable, Exploud, and Seismitoad, really, and then the Mega Metagross once it's megaed. But Clef, Exploud, and Seismitoad is kind of faster than people think it is. But Clef and Exploud are slow anyway, and you outspeed them with basically everything on your team in the first place. Seismitoad is outsped by the majority of your team that isn't called Emboar.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in against Seismitoad with Emboar anyway, really. And then that just leaves the Mega Metagross, which, yeah, fair enough, slowing down the Mega Metagross is great. But I believe the things to deal with Mega Metagross were Emboar, which is not outspeeding it at -1 anyway, and Tornadus T, which outspeeds Mega Metagross anyway.
I think there was a Tornadus I, was it not?
Oh, Tornadus I, but I think that's still 1-1-1.
Yeah, it's still no.
It's still 1 point. It's still 1 point faster than Metagross speed-wise, I think.
Yes, that is. Yes.
So basically, the 2 things I dealt with Metagross were either faster than naturally or still slower than it at -1. So the webs weren't actually as important as potentially you kind of felt they were. I know they would have helped out Kyurem against the Mega Metagross. I'm not sure what move the Kyurem Black had in that situation, but maybe it had an Earth Power that could have been handy against the Mega Metagross. It should have had Earth Power. I don't know if it did or not because we didn't really see it for too long.
No, we did not.
But yeah, the tailwind was more than enough. You didn't really need it. The webs and the tailwind. One or the other would have been, tailwind would have been just enough, really.
Yeah, actually, tailwind would have been a lot better. And just,
if you cared about the webs, Tailwind wouldn't have been necessary, you can just gone for the U-turn, which would have provided initiative, or if Tailwind would have been enough, and then you could have left the webs off Galvantula and Volt Switch turn 1 or whatever. I don't know if Galvantula even had Volt Switch, I'm not certain if it did. But if it didn't have Volt Switch, then Volt Switch would have been handy there, or you could have slapped on Hidden Power Ice for the Salamence on the Galvantula or whatever.
True.
Because that would have outsped. So, yeah, and so obviously Mence is immune to the webs as well, so it doesn't really affect them. And when Mence is probably the biggest threat.
Again, Chi, this is week 1. People are still
week 1. People are learning their teams. Just keep it in mind. Basically, we're kind of going on a little bit of rants every now and then, but it's more a keep in mind thing than God damn it, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like keep it in mind in the future. I'm not gonna lie. I'm seeing it quite a bit in the draft that's going on right now. That people are making a big deal about webs, and they're not as important as people think they are. They can help in certain matchups, but a lot of the time you're kind of on the back foot by setting them up. And they ended up being defogged by Mence anyway, like 3 turns later. So
yeah.
So you got to play them right. Moving on.
So we've talked an earful about this match already, but we're gonna go on to the Miami Dolphins versus the Seattle Raptors.
Did you say Dolphins?
Don fans. The Don fans.
Yeah, I mean this was one of the more straightforward matches. I don't really have there's not a lot of criticism in this match. My big criticism is opponent. My first sentence here is opponent has Bronzong, brings nothing for Bronzong. Basically.
Yeah, this is the second rain team that does something like that.
Yeah, it's another rain team. Another obviously rain team. This rain team, however, I don't believe was necessary to be a rain team this week, in my opinion. The rain didn't really help in any way, shape. I mean, obviously, it always helps Kingdra, but the way it lent heavily on the rain aspect this week with the Amaldo and the Kingdra and the Tornadoes as well, but Tornadoes works fantastically well without rain anyway.
Yes.
But it kind of lent very heavily on the rain aspect this week and didn't really feel necessary. I can't remember exactly what Gearhart brought, but I seem to remember the rain not being brilliant. No,
Gearhart did not have a really big problem with rain for the fact they did bring Sylveon, Bronzong, a Selgor, Electrode, Serena, and Type Null.
Yeah, so there wasn't. I don't know what the rest. I think I did check the rest of Gearhart's roster as well, just to make sure that there's more things that would have not enjoyed the rain that he didn't bring. But I don't remember there seeing anything. But the one big important thing is the Sylveon versus Armaldos. Oh yeah, I mean first we have to mention Future Sight in general. Fantastic idea.
I give a clap for that. That was amazing.
I did realise later on Kyle's team. Well, he does have one switch into it. I can't remember what it is now. There is a dark type that he didn't bring, but I can't remember what it is now. I think it's Weavile. I think there was a dark type. I think he has Weavile on his roster. I'm not certain.
I will double check for you.
Just double check that. I know there was one. I remember being a dark type, but I remember not being particularly defensive and being weak to steel. So I think it was Weavile. I remember it being weak to Bronzong on the steel on one side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying to think of what could he have brought to kill the Bronzong, because he didn't bring anything really. Especially when you're a rain team, you're removing his fire weakness. So you kind of need to lean on any ghost or dark types you have to take down Bronzong in that situation. But so Weavile would have helped out massively against that Bronzong. Maybe Pursuit trapped it or whatever, and would have been a nice switch in. Would have been a nice switch in to the Future Sights if you timed it right, because then it would have done nothing. But this is why I give Gearhart the major props though, because every time there was a Future Sight.
Okay, whoa, Chi, I'm back.
Yeah.
I was actually reconnecting all that time.
That's
fine.
So
I missed everything that you said. So
that's fine. I was just mentioning that Bronzong. Technical issues, won't be a video with me without it. But Bronzong. When Bronzong is up against a rain team, you've lost the fire weakness, which means you have to rely on ghost and dark types, essentially.
Yes.
And not bringing Weavile to kill the Bronzong was probably mistake number one, because there was nothing to kill that Bronzong with. Basically, it could just take hits for days and not care about anything. So yeah, by bringing rain, you actually made his Bronzong stronger.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
I don't know if you. I'm not sure if there's any fire types on your rain team as such, but it does remove a weakness from Bronzong and makes it feel a little bit safer. Yeah, what I was saying is, if you brought the Weevil, then that would have been a switch into Future Sight as well. We'd have to count the turns and time it right. And this is why I can't really criticize not bringing Weevil anyway, because what I remember is pretty much every time a Future Sight went down, Gearhart had Sylveon in.
Actually, yeah, that's what actually happened, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
So, and if you've got Sylveon in, you're not going to be switching Weavile in anyway.
Yeah, so it wasn't really like the...
So,
like
yeah,
a big
in terms of the dealing with the Future Sight thing, bringing Weavile, I'm not going to criticize you for that one because of the way Gearhart played it anyway. He played it perfectly. He brought in the Sylveon. If you had the Dark type, then it would have taken the super effective Hyper Voice anyway. So it would have been regardless if you had Weavile there or not. But bringing Weavile to kill that goddamn Bronzong would have been useful.
That's always a good idea. Yeah.
Now the thing we do need to talk about here is the crit that didn't matter.
Okay.
There was a lot made in the Don fan side of the video about the crit. It didn't matter. I ran the counts. I ran the calc as soon as that happened because I've been in this situation before where someone starts playing a little bit on tilt or starts getting a little bit salty about a crit. That didn't matter. And I calced it afterwards, it actually didn't matter at all, really. So the roll that the Sylveon did with the crit, it did 171 damage. If you uncrit that, that's 114 damage. The Future Sight that Bronzong did would have had a minimum of 67 damage on that Armaldo. That adds up to exactly the amount of health the Armaldo had. Adds up to 181. So no matter what happened, that Future Sight would have killed that Armaldo without the crit as well. So it didn't matter.
That's actually no.
It's like
actually
it was
so
literally
make sure
perfectly. No, that was actually a lowish roll Hyper Voice as well. It was on the lower end of the spectrum. So that crit absolutely 100% did not matter. Also, a brief mention. Kept talking about fortunate sleep talk rolls, saying it's a 25% chance. It's not. It's a 33% chance. It's a 1 in 3 chance of the other 3 moves.
That is true.
I think that was just a sort of brain fart moment rather than a genuine belief it was 25%.
And you think you can roll sleep talk again, but you can't roll sleep talk.
Especially when you're playing potentially a little bit on tilt as well, because you've been rattled by what you thought was an important crit. I believe there was another piece of hacks in the middle, which didn't help.
Just a bit, yeah.
Was it a paralysis? Was it like a chance of a paralysis or something like that? I can't remember what it was.
I think it was a paralysis, yeah.
Like a 10% paralysis, something. I can't quite remember what it was. And then there was a full power. I think it was a 10% power and then full power, or just a Thunder Wave full power immediate. And it's like, just sort of went, of course. Like, as if you'd been like seriously, watch T-Train's match and then complain about the hacks.
Yeah, honestly. But it was a good win nonetheless.
Yes, it was a good win for Gearhart. That Future Sight is beautiful.
That was well timed, well played. Honestly,
I think I've only ever really seen it once before, and it did do massive work there as well. I think Mono Tui used it at some point.
I remember that actually.
It might have been in the GBA last season. I'm not certain.
Yeah,
but it worked well there as well. So don't sleep on Future Sight, people. Basically, although using it week 1. Might have played a little bit of a trump card there week 1, so hopefully can do things again later on in the season. But anyway, moving on.
Next team we're going to talk about right now is Numb Nexus and the Pittsburgh Pichus versus John, aka Pokemon, of the New Orleans Pelipers.
Oh boy, this was a battle.
This was
a really good battle with a lot of good back and forth, a lot of good predictions. This in my opinion was my game of the week. Just because of the interplay between 2 experienced battlers, really. Obviously, Nexus has had a long history of battling, and John's been in the GBA forever, and various other leagues. The only thing, and the main talking point about this battle is, obviously it came down to the 1-on-1 between the 2 Tapus, so it was a 1-0 victory for John. I kind of think we've been forgetting to mention the actual margins of victories here. So it was a 1-0 for John there in the end, because Tapu Fini essentially outbulked the Tapu Lele's Moonblast. But the talking point is, what the hell happened with the Persimmon switch?
Okay, so this was the turn of events, I guess. Tapu Lele was in. John brought in Persimmon.
It's choice. We need to mention it is Choice Scarf Tapu Lele, and it's locked into Psychic.
Yes, And so then John brings in Choice Scarf Passimian.
Choice Scarf Passimian, just having a little bit of a brain fart for getting this Choice Scarf Lele, maybe. And
No,
then,
it was Choice Scarf Lele. It was.
like, yeah,
And then
like, I think it may have,
after
I don't know if he was, I can't remember if he just remembered it was Choice Scarf Lele when he
No,
brought the Passimian in.
we're just gonna hear. Then
Either way.
Nexus switches out Chocolele to go into Zoroark to take on the incoming Ironhead because he was afraid that Choice Scarf Passimian outsped Choice Scarf Chocolele.
Now, I didn't, like, we all, like, me and Juan watched one side of these battles each, with generally not enough time in the day to watch both sides.
Oh my gosh.
Each.
Yeah, so we tried to split up the time between
So
the two.
I watched John's side, so I actually have no idea what Nexus was actually thinking at that time of the match. So, can you help me out here?
Okay, so he did mention during the middle of the battle as well that why the hell did he switch in Zoroark on to take in the Ironhead? Because he just thought, oh shoot, he's going to go for Ironhead. I need to preserve my Tapu Lele. But he completely forgot Speed Tears. It happens. It happens. He mid-game forgot Speed Tears, and Tapu Lele does outspeed Passimian every day of the week if it's Scarfed or normal. Because Tapu Lele is 95, Passimian is 80. It just happens. I
actually thought Passimian was slower than that, to be honest. But yeah, it's 80. But I wrote down on my notes, no idea what happened with Passimian versus Lele. I put brackets, can only assume Nexus feared a berry or something. I did also consider the fact he may have forgotten, like, may have not known what Passimian's speed tier was, because it's not really seen a lot. It's very rare. It's very rare in the game itself. It's only a 5% encounter or something like that. So you don't really run into it a lot in the game naturally, and it's not really seen on the ladder at all either. So
yeah, but
it may just be a case of not knowing the speed tier.
Nexus mentioned in his video himself that he's just shaking the rust off. It's been a long time since he's done actual draft league battle.
I would assume the last time was the UCL, whenever that finished off last year.
Yeah, that's a while ago as well. Yeah, so it happens. It's again week 1 stuff. You're gonna misplace a little bit, but he didn't mention that there was 2 misplays of the Tangrowth and this play right here. If he would have preserved the Tangrowth better instead of preserving the Quagsire, he would have had a better shot at coming back in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Tangrowth thing was more of a misplay in hindsight. It was essentially more of a good prediction on John's part than anything else.
Okay.
As well, from what I remember, it was like, I'm going to predict the Tangrowth to come in here. I'm going to go for the Ice Beam. It wasn't a case of switching in on an obvious Ice move, basically.
Okay.
I think it was Tapu Fini, wasn't it? So predicting a Scald, like you would have been predicting the Scald, but so it was more of a good prediction. Like, he's going to bring in Tangrowth this time. I'm going to go for the Ice Beam, that kind of thing. So yeah, I just put. I literally only have 3 lines of notes on this one. Just put a really good battle and nothing really of note other than great battling.
It was honestly
smart.
Great
one thing I would say is
but
smart play of terrain overriding as well.
Yes, there was a lot of that in this match.
Holding back the Tapu Fini every time the Tapu Lele came in, so you could bring in the Tapu Fini, and then get rid of the Psychic Terrain. That was excellent control on John's John's side of
definitely.
It. Keeping that Psychic Terrain off was crucial.
You also have to realize that even though Nex was saying he was shaking off the rust and all that, this was still a 1-0.
Yeah, it was a 1-0, and it was a 1-0 battle as well. It wasn't like the T-Train match where it kind of ended up being ground down into a 1-0. This was a genuine equal match.
Yeah, definitely.
So
there's not really much to say. Just keep on playing like that, guys. Honestly.
Yeah, so it was a good match. It was a great match to watch. And to be honest, if I say personally, if people want to watch one match this week, watch that one.
Definitely. Up next, we are going to go over the Waterloo Sawsbucks versus the LA Landers, coached respectively by Old School Sin and Jerry Oak.
I have. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I had to put it down as W Sawsbucks because there's 2 of them in the league.
Yes. Let me double check the score on this one. Yes, it was a 4-0 victory for Jerry.
Landers. Yeah, it was a 4-0 for the Landers, and oh my. I don't want to come across like I'm not a mean person.
Just restrain.
Yeah, I'm not a mean person, but I have a lot to talk about from my side of this match.
I'll let you go.
I can only assume the Jerry side of things seemed perfectly normal to you. But
they were just very clean plays and making sure that
not the clean plays and 5 kills for Cabalion, basically.
Yeah, 5 kills. No, don't worry. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
The first line I have is opponent has Cabalion, essentially brings nothing for Cabalion, and brings 4 things weak to fighting types. Why?
Actually, I'm just noticing that right now as well.
Why was there nothing brought for the Cabalion at all? Really? You could Magna pull it with. You can Magna pull it all you like, but Magna Zone goes down to it. The one thing, the only misplay I have on Jerry's side of things from watching this match was the Landorus inadvertently. Was it Landorus? But
Light score.
No, I can't. I've got the word Landorus. Oh yeah, that's the team. Sorry.
Yeah. The only other ground flying type.
No. It's whatever was in against the Ambipom map. Oh, it's Yuxi, I think. Yuxi inadvertently gave the initiative to Sin by paralysing the Ambipom. Now, that paralysing the Ambipom came in clutch later on, but inadvertently, by paralysing the Ambipom, Yuxi then outsped, and then it out-U-turned the Ambipom, so then Sin got the initiative on that turn, which I found quite funny. It's like, right, we'll paralyse one of his big threats, and then we'll switch out. I'm now faster than him. Damn, he's got the initiative.
It happens. But
that's the only negative thing I have against it. And of course, the paralysing the Ambipom allowed the Cabalion to kill it later on anyway. So it worked out in the end. Don't worry. But I have a lot to say on the commentary on Sin's side of things here.
I'm sorry.
It's kind of actually 2 matches in a row where we talk about. We say the Nexus was a little bit rusty and didn't know Bassimian's speed here. I can't remember how far it is, but it was Blastoise versus Amoonguss. Sin asked the question, do I outspeed? It's an Amoonguss!
Yeah.
Everything outspeeds it!
You don't ask that question about Amoonguss yet.
I can't remember if it's 30 or 29. It's like I
got you. Go, talk.
But yes, you outspeed. You're a Blastoise versus an Amoonguss. You outspeed. Later on, I can't remember what it was in it, but do I outspeed this Yuxi?
Yuxi actually has base 95 speed.
Base 95. And then further later on, I'm pretty sure Cabalion outspeeds a Magnezone. Right. That's 3 times you've asked, do I outspeed? Like, does this outspeed this in the match? Look up your speed tiers before the match, please. I beg you. Otherwise, you're gonna have a disadvantage every single week. Everyone else, will be planning their teams to outspeed certain things anyway. Like that's one of the big parts of draft. Like it's one of the big parts of what do you call it? Counter team format is countering the speed tiers, making sure certain Pokemon outspeed certain Pokemon. So if you're naturally faster than the Pokemon, making sure you can speed down enough so that you still outspeed them on, and putting much bulk in as you can. That's one of the big parts. Like there were so many times, and then even further later on. I am choice specs, so I might outspeed. I'm not sure what you think choice specs do.
Calm down.
But
by the way, it is 30 speed on the Amoonguss.
It is 30. It's Bronzong that's 29. I had both last season in the PPL, that's why I get them confused. But yeah, choice specs only gives you power. It doesn't give you speed. Hydreigon was not outspeeding. Basically, there wasn't really a lot you could do with. I also put as a negative point here, allows your Wincon to be spored, which I think would have been Hydreigon in this situation. And that allows only other fast mon on your team to be paralysed. Although T-Wave Yuxi isn't that common. I didn't even know it got T-Wave, to be honest. And then there's kind of the big one.
Okay. Yes, I'm here.
And then there's the big one at the end of the match. Now, obviously, at this point, you've been sacking things, essentially, just letting Cabalion sweep through you. You weren't to know it was going to do this much damage, but when you brought in the Ambipom last or second to last, I can't remember what it was, and it kind of, from the range that Cabalion was at, would have cleaned to it, KO'd it with Fake Out. Bringing Ambipom out. Bringing Ambipom back first, bringing Ambipom first in, fake outing, switching it out, sacking something else off, bringing Ambipom back in would have forced the Cabalion to switch out because it would not have taken another fake out, and therefore you would have been in a unfavourable position, but a lot better favourable position than 1 versus 4 at that point.
That is true.
It would have been more 3 versus 4 or something like that. But the thing I have is You got the fake out, saw the damage, and went, "Oh, that did more than I thought. Fair enough." I wasn't expecting it to do that much either. I wasn't expecting fake out to essentially 2-hit Kyori from that range. Yeah. Then the fake out was clicked again, deliberately. Fake out only works once.
He did. It wasn't a misclick.
No. He just like, oh, that might kill from here. Clicks it again. Fake out only works the first turn you're out. What made me laugh? The fact that fake out was clicked twice wasn't what made me laugh as such. It was the fact he actually got fully paralyzed on the second fake out.
Oh, okay. So
that's amusing. And this is why I'm bringing it up, because the game would not have told him that it would have failed because it fully paralyzed him on that turn. Mm-hmm. So if you are watching this in, fake out works once.
Yes.
The first turn you're in. It's like first impression as well, in case anyone has Galissabod in the league and doesn't know what first impression does. First turn that you're in, you can switch out, bring it back in. It's refreshed. It's fine. You can use it again the first time you're in, the second time round.
You can't use it in succession, guys.
Only the first turn you're in. So just because it won't have said it in the match, in the text, because of the paralysis, just want to make that clear.
Okay.
You might have found out later on anyway. I don't know, but yeah, wasn't a good week for Sin, basically.
No, it wasn't. But
week one, like we keep saying, is week one. We learn, we live, we learn.
Yeah, honestly, that's all we can say.
Yeah.
Just make sure you guys learn from your mistakes and get better. I know for a fact that
the biggest thing, I don't want to sound too negative on anyone here, but the biggest thing you could learn, and this goes for everyone, learn your speed tiers.
Yes. Learn
your speed tiers. I have it built. I have them built into my planning documents. If you have planning documents, build them into your planning documents.
I personally don't use documents, but you can almost tell me a mon, and I can tell you what generally outspeeds it.
Yeah. I mean, you can still generally know things. And to be honest, he was kind of like, he was asking, do I outspeed this thing? He had the general idea. Like he kind of knew that he did, but still asking the question is a little bit weird when it's Blastoise versus Amoonguss.
Okay. Going on, we're going to go into the Orlando Magikarps versus the Seattle Sea Kings. They, I believe, what was the score for this one?
Sorry, which one? I'm sorry.
Orlando Magikarps versus Seattle Sea Kings.
Can't speak Kings. Oh yeah, that's down here. Yeah, I got that. This was literally the one underneath on my list. No, obviously Jodor is the commissioner of this league, and I don't want to be too negative on Jodor. No, because I might be out of a job. But
What will you say that would risk our employment right now?
No, there was nothing particularly major, to be honest, but I really want to know why Sableye was switched in on Sceptile. Because the obvious move Sceptile was going to go for, and in that situation would have been Leaf Storm. Now, I believe he predicted a switch and went for Hidden Power Ice. That still left it in range of that left the Sableye in range of a Leaf Storm anyway, as it turned out. But I'm not sure if a Leaf Storm would have one-shot a Sableye anyway, because Sableye isn't the strongest of mons. Sceptile doesn't get Icy Wind. That's a different match entirely, using Icy Wind on predictions. But it was Hidden Power Ice, I believe. I can't remember what he was predicting now. I can't remember what's on Gyarados' team. But it was something that was presumably weak to it. That wasn't weak to Leaf Storm. So another grass type. I can't remember what Jodor bought now. But yeah, why did the Sableye switch in? I don't know if you watched Jodor's side of these things. Why did Sableye go into Sceptile there?
I would not. I'm trying to double check in the video. Why would he do that right now? And also, this is a 1-0 victory to the to the Magikarps. Yeah, it was a very very close.
It's very close game.
It went down to a poison, actually. To be frank.
Yes, it did. It did indeed. Actually, it went down to a poison. Also, side note, shout out to the Metagross nickname, by the way. I will always love you if you have a Yu-Gi-Oh nickname. By the way, it was called Machine King, and I thought.
Oh yeah, okay.
It was a long battle. It was a long 1-0.
No, it was a long one. It was one of those that it was again another struggle.
It was a war of attrition. It was definitely a war of attrition, this match. I can assume the Lando did not have a rock move on it as well.
I'm pretty sure it did not. Let me go over
because it never went for it when it needed to. So I'm guessing it didn't have a rock move. I don't know what its other two moves were because I think we only ever saw knockoff and something else. Maybe we saw the Earthquake as well. I'm not certain. I think we saw the U-turn, but I don't know what the fourth move was. We certainly didn't see one of the moves that Landorus had. But I can only assume it wasn't a rock move because the last two Mons would have died to rock move.
Yes, that is true. Let me double check.
And would have definitely won in the game 2-0 at that point if he had the rock moves. But he didn't. Choice specs. I did have two things to maybe inform choice specs of, but I have seen in the NPA server chat that he is aware that Scald does defrost.
Okay, good.
Because he was sat there with a frozen Slowbro, and I'm just shouting, "You Scald!" But
no, again, it happens.
You
forget these little things.
He is aware. Like I've seen it in the chat. He is aware, and he just simply bypassed his brain at that point. Also, he was a little bit surprised at the end that he mentioned with the knockoff at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The knockoff did obviously quite a lot of damage to the Scolipede, and then the second one didn't do as much. And the commentary was, "Oh, that was a really high roll and a really low roll." No, that's just how knockoff works. I'm afraid. It's just knockoff.
It's first. If you have an item, it boosts it by 50%, right?
Yeah. Again, that might have been just another bypass in the heat at the moment. I know from experience, especially with live comms, you do kind of say these things. You do, like I mentioned. I kept the scarf not scarf thing. It happens, especially happens a lot. It's like, oh, is it scarf? Is it scarf when it's clearly showing its leftovers or life orb or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not scarfed. But it's you can say these things in the battle and you just kind of go, oh, duh, later on. But did I really say that? I don't know. But again, as people watching this, we're not sure if that's what you genuinely believe or if it's just a brain bypass.
But we're gonna go on to actually our
it was a good battle, and so another good one to check out as well.
Definitely.
By the way, I absolutely adore the choice specs' layout for that. It's brilliant.
It actually is a very nice. I peeked into a little bit. It was very, very nice. But we're actually gonna go into our last battle for the week for the fact that the Milwaukee Sawsbuck did take a forfeit. So
is that really all of them?
Yeah, we're up to the last one now. It's Tampa Bay Luxrays versus the Duke City Dublais.
Oh, neat.
And so I'm not saying this is the last one for the fact that Milwaukee Sawsbuck versus the San Diego Charizards. Steve and the Sawsbucks did take a forfeit for this. So San Diego Charizards did get a de facto victory for this.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the forfeit ratios are, but it is a forfeit win for Uvump and the San Diego Charizards. So just want
to make that clear out there so you guys don't yell at us that we missed one. Okay?
And also don't go looking for it because it doesn't exist.
Yep.
If you're wondering, like, where is this video gone? It's not there. There isn't one.
Tampa Bay Luxrays versus the Duke City Dublais. That was a battle.
Oh yeah. I don't have a lot for this, to be honest. I just essentially have what Exception said in his side of the video. Not sure if the crit mattered, but that's basically it.
I'm going to say a few things about this one. I love the guy. He is the co-commissioner of the league, but it was also made mentioned in the NPA chat, which is the only reason why I'm going to say this now. If you're going to join a league and you draft a Mega, make sure you get your Mega Ring.
Was it genuinely a case of not having the Mega Ring? Because obviously
it was genuinely a case that he did not have a Mega Ring, which he was not able to Mega Evolve his Mega Venusaur.
Yeah, because I've seen situations where it's not been Mega Ring or just not forgetting to gen the Mega Stone on or whatever. Sorry.
Everybody
breed
sure
the Mega Stone on.
What is? We do not gen here.
Slip of the tongue, my friend. I'm sorry.
All right. The second thing. Now that we're talking about breeding Mons, make sure you have the right natures. There was one point in the commentary where Volskyler said, "Oh, why is Latias outspeeding my Jolteon? Oh, why is Mega Absol outspeeding my Jolteon as well?" He didn't make a note of this, so we're not actually we're not yelling at him. We're just pointing out just tips and tricks. What the issue was that he had the wrong nature. At Timid Nature, he did the right investments that he put in, outsped all the Mons that on the Tampa Bay Luxrays team. But Jolteon was a modest nature, which then caused the speed tiers to go out of whack, and thus causing everything to outpace him.
Yeah, I mean, again, we mentioned it's something that I learned the hard way myself. Is always check your Mons.
Always.
It's a bit like even if you do it yourself, check your Mons. Even if someone else gives them to you, check your mons. If you're doing this yourself, check your mons. There's no excuse.
I actually lost a league championship because of that.
Oh wow! I just misbreed things on a regular basis in season 2, and that became a running joke. So
I did not check my Tyrantrum to have solid rock. Right, that's the one that doesn't do recoil.
Rockhead,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so, I went for the head smash, and it did freaking all hell and back because it OHKO'd him on. And, the recoil just put it to the lower enough range that I could not preserve it, which honestly could have won me the game. But we're not talking about other leagues. We're talking about Duke City.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Porygon Z to things?
No, on the positive side of things, exceptional, and excuse the pun there, I just remembered the name of the person.
Good job.
That was completely unintentional. It might be just my case of just reading it and processing it, but exceptional planning by exception with the infestation. That was majestic to watch. It was on par for me with the future sight. It was just wonderful to see that happening. Infestation. I like to see infestation because people kind of play with it, and it doesn't really come off a lot of the times. And
but when it works,
paid off here wonderfully. It got the exact thing. Like you mentioned, the thing there was 3, like the Venusaur, the Heatran, and the Slowbro. If any of them switched in, he was happy with any of them switching in onto the infestation, and that's brilliant because the Venotran Slowbro core is horrendous to get through. By taking one of those out of the equation via infestation and then super effective moves.
And actually, just realizing this, Araquanid deals with all 3.
It does, yeah.
When they're trapped in.
So
that was an amazing, definitely an amazing play by
excellent planning, and the Slowbro came in. That was probably the best 1-2 catch actually with it. Because Slowbro does the least 2. Araquanid back really. Heatran's just as bad for it. Venusaur can do things back to. It could like leech seed back or whatever, and you kind of end up in a bit of a war of attrition or whatever. But potentially, but the Heatran and the Slowbro definitely. If either of those got infested, then you're not. They wouldn't have been taking out that Araquanid for certain. And yes, there was a crit with the second. Well, with what turned out to be the final lunge. Leech Life. In the match, not sure if it mattered, and looking at the numbers, looking at the damage dealt, it didn't look like it mattered too much from the previous Leech Lives. It might have been a roll. I'm not certain because it looked like it was a low roll the first time. Anyway,
no, but also for the fact that even if there was no crit, think about it. Infestation was still there and taking away 10% HP.
Well, yeah, if he survived, you could have slacked off again, maybe or whatever. But I think it still would have eventually. I think it would have died to the next one anyway. Maybe because the infestation plus the leech life would have been more than the recovery would have been, I think. But excellent to watch the infestation. I love it when infestation pays off. Same way I loved it the way Future Sight paid off as well. So great to watch. And like you said, the Porygon timed the setup perfectly. Damaged it. Did the damage. PZ is always fun.
PZ is one of those ones that you can never be mad against. Yeah, when you see it work.
A little bit, yeah, and it kind of is one of those mons one of those normal type mons people sleep on as well. It goes on that same column. People don't really sleep on PZ as much as they sleep on Exploud. But yeah, it falls on the same category of things that do a lot of damage, and you kind of forget that they do a lot of damage. Mainly probably because of P2 being so. I mean, P2 does more damage than people think it does as well.
Yeah, that's also another mon. Yeah.
Because it's very much a defensive mon, P2. Always seen in that light, and people forget how much damage it does. So people forget how much damage PZ does as a result as well. But yeah, it's kind of thing. Speaking of PZ, of course, that's one of the. Not sure if we necessarily need to go this, but there were 5 kills for Mega Scissor, 5 kills for Cobalion, 3 for Virizion, Sylveon, PZ, and the Garchomp on Duncan Knee Deep's team there. So yes, just because that was way back when in the first battle we talked of. So that's what the MVP racer would look like right now. I'm not sure if we need to cover that or not, but I like to be thorough.
Just in case.
I like to be
definitely.
Thorough. So Mega Scissor and Cobalion leading with 5 kills each at the moment. I'm not sure. A little bit of a sweep for both of those, and the mini sweeps for Virizion. Sylveon was more just bopping things that kept coming in every now and then. PZ was a mini sweep as well. So
Yeah, so that is your weekly recap.
That's it for week 1.
That is it for week 1. We will catch you guys back in week 2. But in the meantime, if you have not watched any of these videos, there is a playlist down below, including team builders, both perspectives of the tree. Yeah, just make sure you guys go into the description and check that out. Also, if you haven't done so, subscribe to all your coaches that are in the NPA and also to your analysts. We love you.
Oh, yeah.
We always love you. Yeah, and also check out the NPA's social media and YouTube as well.
And a quick reminder to anyone watching: we're not hating on any of the coaches at all.
Absolutely not.
Just the plays, potentially the plays, but it's more.
It's constructive criticism.
That's the words. The words completely went out of my brain there. Thank you.
Yeah, we're just trying to help everybody.
See what I mean? Things just go out of your brain, and it's not your fault. Trust us.
Yep.
We've been there too. We're players as well. We're not just analysts.
Oh yeah. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next recap. Enjoy all the content NPA has to offer, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao.